Hello and welcome to the post-match reaction to the Crusaders versus the Chiefs. It all finished up 39-17 to the Crusaders in this one, meaning that the Chiefs now have equaled the Highlanders' longest ever losing record of 11 games on the trot, I think it is. And next week we'll go for the title itself. Joining me to provide his hot takes from this game, I've got Ashwin. How you doing, sir?
Oh, not too bad, not too bad.
So, look, a couple of interesting decisions on selections then. Anton Leonard-Brown on the bench, unfortunately, because injured. But let's be honest, when he came on, he didn't look too flash. And David Havili, look, is he a fullback? Is he a first five? No, apparently he's a second five. Now playing in that 12 jersey. Mr. Versatility, perhaps too versatile, but a guy who seems to be able to do everything for the Crusaders, but the All Blacks don't want him.
No, look, I mean, I think he just, as I said in the commentary, you could actually basically put him anywhere in their back line, and he's played first five as well. He's filled in at a pinch, so he can actually play in any position in that back line.
The perfect 23-man. But anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I was just about to say, I was just like, I think going forward, he will probably be looked at by the All Black selectors because of that versatility on the bench.
Yep. Except the only problem is that they're actually talking about expanding the Rugby World Cup squad, not contracting them, which would have been perhaps in his favour. But that's another conversation for another night. But if this game only took 10 minutes, then the Chiefs would have won it comfortably, wouldn't they? Great start.
Yeah, look, that's the interesting thing, because again, with the commentary team, they were going on about how the Chiefs were in it in half an hour. I think they were in it for about 15, maybe 20 at a push. Yep. But yeah, great start by the Chiefs. Oh, great try. Damien McKenzie showing possibly Whainukunuku, he's got all the skills in the world, but he may just be a little bit down on speed. So he did have to sort of turn and chase McKenzie, but sort of McKenzie got that momentum by going around outside of him.
Yeah, I think what they missed and didn't mention in the commentary was if you look at it, I think it's Vai who's running a real strong line just inside Dave McKenzie, which attracts Leicester's Whainuku's eye line. Whainuku should trust his inside guys to take him, but I can understand why he didn't. And that pulls him in, which gives that space for Dave McKenzie to run around it. So any kids or any aspiring players watching this one, you'll have seen it from Vai, but also from the whole of the Crusaders team in the second half, was just run those hard lines in support, because that's what creates all the space.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think obviously, I mean, without jumping ahead, I suppose, which we're doing anyway. So it's like the one thing is that the Crusaders in that second half, this is like that they really started to do the offload game, and the way that they achieve that is by the fact is that you don't take that extra meter, because instead of taking the extra meter, you're actually trying to set yourself up to do the offload. So instead of going, I'll go there, I'm trying to go as far as I can, but by that time it's too late because you're on the ground and in a compromised position to be able to throw the pass. All you can do is set the ball up. They're actually getting into the contact zone, and they're looking at how am I going to set up so as soon as I made contact, I can actually offload.
Yep. How can I get the ball away early to the player, which is great. That also requires different running lines than because if you're running a support line, you can't clear out a ruck. So it does mean that everyone has to be switched on and playing the same game, which the Crusaders weren't doing in that first 10 minutes. We saw Mo'unga goes on to have a fantastic game, proving why he is the All Blacks number 10, but collects a ball on his own 22 and then decides to pass it into the back of I think it was Will Jordan, so behind the player into his back, and Will was like, "Oh, what? Hey, kick it! Why did you pass it?"
Yeah. And interestingly enough, in that situation, I think that's the Soturo one where he tries to pick the ball up after it.
Yes, that's right.
Yep. This is like, again, this is like you're saying Mo'unga, why just kick it? Soturo should have basically just put the toe to it, because there was nobody in behind in that defensive line. It would have been him and Blades of Grass competing for the ball. So he just needed to tow it ahead. He shouldn't have been trying to pick that up.
So it could have been 0. Well, actually, include the missed penalty. It could have been 20-0 after 20 minutes, with the Chiefs scoring at point a minute. Wow, I mean that's cracking play.
Yeah, look, I think and we'll come to some of the other points as well. But I mean, I think what it shows against the Crusaders is the fact is that if you had any hope of beating them, you have to have everything go your way. So you go back to that missed penalty. You got to take that. The penalty's got to go over. You got to make the right call in terms of chipping ahead and then picking up the ball. Everything has to be 100% correct in terms of the way it's going to go to tip them over.
Right. Now, as you can see, I'm wearing my Chiefs jersey. Look, I've been as positive as I can be, okay? By only really talking about the first 10 minutes. Unfortunately, that's going to have to stop now. Look, let's get it out of the way because, hey, if we had Boa on here, we would have half an hour's chat about referees. We're going to get through this quickly because, yes, the referee made had some shocking decisions in this across it, and a number of them. One, the Fayanuku dive into score, was that
I think with that one, my personal opinion is that his foot has touched the ground, but I don't think that it's clear and obvious to overturn it. It's not clear and obvious. You can't 100% say that his foot has hit the ground. Again, you're making an assumption because of physics to basically say his foot has hit the ground. There's maybe on the reverse camera angle, there's some suggestion of the foot actually, you can see blades of grass moving, but it's all blurry.
They change color, which says they've moved the quarter light differently. To me, his foot touched the ground. Not touched. His foot grazed some pieces of grass. Unfortunately, from one angle, there's not enough shadow to be able to tell where that shadow disappears, and the lighting is just not quite good enough. From the other angle, it's just such a blurry picture of the foot that the foot could be anywhere within about an inch. There's that much fuzz. So that's it. In that one, the TMO couldn't overrule a decision. He probably got a bit lucky there.
What I just like to say about that, and I'll jump ahead to one other. The miracle ball from when the ball had gone dead. What I really start to despise now is that the officials on the field are always jumping to it's on-field decisions to try.
Well, they're basically
because if it's not clear and obvious. Because if it's not clear and obvious, then they basically go, let's take that Whainuku one. If they had said, we think he's actually touched the ground, but we want to check, then it would have been not clear and obvious, no try.
Yeah, exactly. But at the moment, what they're doing is they're going, right, did I see a ball get grounded? If the answer is yes, I'm going on-field try, whatever happened beforehand. Which is wrong. Whereas if I don't see a clear grounding, then I'm saying no try. And that, again, irrelevant what's happened beforehand. So so that one there, the team did the right thing in that one. We then had a warning by the referee for yellow card, or for consistent penalties by the Chiefs. And look, they racked up 15 penalties in this game. The Chiefs, but apparently the warning was only for space, whatever that means, in the 22. So that meant that coming in at the side of the ruck, being offside at the scrum, whether you were or not, those penalties don't count towards the warning, which I've never seen before. I've had it before. The warning is within 22, but not that the warning is only for this specific infringement. Feel free to infringe however else you like. It's like, what?
Well, I suppose, I mean, as I said, it's probably a good thing we don't have Bowler on this show because the fact is that the officiating, I mean, I don't know if it would have changed the result, as Steve said in our own personal chat group, but, but that doesn't excuse the fact that the Brad Weber one you've just talked about, how they saw an offside in that play is beyond me and absolutely beyond me. At no stage did he get ahead of the ball. He may have got in line with the ball, but at no stage did he get ahead of the ball in that process. The penalty was given. And as I put in there, the irony of it was against the Highlanders, Bryn Hall actually runs in front of Aaron Smith and the ball and didn't get penalised.
So that one then, before we get on to Stephen's comment in the live chat, we'll just run through the other refereeing discussion points. Richard Mwanga throws an absolute massive forward pass when Brad Weber's hand touches his arm. They go back for that one under a captain's challenge. The TMO decides that actually no, somehow that's bounced off Brad Weber's hand, which it hadn't. So a bit of a shocker there.
And just to be on, so when I first saw it, like the first replay of it, and they got that back angle of it, I actually, Aiden, my son sitting there, we actually thought it had actually hit his hand as well. However, in saying that, they only looked at it once and made the quick decision. Whereas when you look at it the second time and you're looking at it very closely, it quite clearly, he hits the arm, not the ball.
And then straight after that, we end up with a forward pass from Sevu Reece, or a pass from Sevu Reece, which goes forward because of momentum, at the very least. They say we'll give the try, clear and obvious if it's a forward pass, and it's not. There's nothing clear and obvious that it came out of his hands forward. Yes, the ball travelled forward, but he was running quick. And if we're going to say it has to come out the hands backwards, who knows where that was coming out? Because we didn't get any good angle on that.
Again, as I said in our personal chat, and I sort of says, look, from camera angles and that one as well, not clear and obvious that it hasn't come backwards out of the hand, and that therefore it's not momentum that's made the ball travel forward. So therefore that try should have stood, because the on-field decision was that it's a try. So they're not following their own processes. That's the key here.
That one should have stood, but the previous one should not have been given. Which basically, look, come on, that was a TMO evening up his previous mistake.
Yeah, that's when they give the yellow card, and then they give even up penalties to try and even the playing field out. That's what that was. I look, I mean, aside, we'll take that situation.
One, by the way.
Yeah, to take that situation. Actually, we should talk about one other one, but I'll just cover that off. There is one other one. Just that situation. That's why I've always said they should just make it a simple rule. If the ball, don't worry about momentum.
Yeah.
Don't worry about out of the hand, backwards out of the hand. If the ball goes forward, the ball goes forward. You call it. The game is supposed to be about passing the ball backwards. Don't worry about momentum. Momentum should be that the ball's gone backward and it's drifted forward, but not from the parallel line from where it was actually passed. Simple as that.
If it's going to go forwards because you throw it slightly backwards, throw it further backwards.
Throw it further backwards. Absolutely.
Just keep throwing it further backwards until it goes backwards.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. The other one was the Damian McKenzie try, his first try. This is why I got so hot about the Rico try in the All Blacks Test match, because the fact is they've ruled here that it's never left any part of his body, and therefore it's not a knock on. Whereas quite clearly he rolls the ball forward, quite clearly with the arm rolls the ball forward. Hang on, but the thing is that in the Rico situation, it's just like it never left his hands. It was a legitimate try. Now everybody goes, it's fish and chip paper. It's old. Why are you going on about it? Because there was a massive pile-on after that too. How's that affecting the player and their confidence when everybody's saying, "Oh, you're a useless player," when he didn't actually do anything wrong? He scored the try. Yep. And if that wasn't a try, then today's definitely wasn't a try.
Okay, I didn't think he rolled it from, but I did think it was dull movement. But anyway, that's another matter entirely. So we'll move on from that now and actually talk about the actual rugby itself. Yes. Jordan Clark, how can the Chief expect to win with a scrum that soft? Either that soft or just the Crusaders that dominant. Either way, the Crusaders scrum was absolutely fantastic tonight.
Tell you what that highlights, again, we've talked about this in our other shows, right, is the coverage. It's really disappointing. What would we love to hear from the expert commentators is that, replay. What is happening in the scrum to make the Crusaders scrum so dominant? Because what we see these days is in professional rugby, players are pretty much, there or thereabouts. So what are the Crusaders doing that is making them so much more dominant than the opposition? And this would be classic analysis that would make our game much more exciting to watch and interesting to watch if we're having it explained. This is how the Crusaders are getting the dominance now and what they're doing. And it's the second row.
To be fair to the Australian commentary, which is we haven't been able to do for many years, watching the Force versus the Rebels game. One of the things they were talking about there was how the particular props will be able to lock it by locking their shoulder, and that they weren't trying to get underneath the guy, but they were locking their shoulder instead, and that steadied things up, whereas the other guy was trying to get underneath them. And they actually did talk about that kind of stuff and how the props were countering each other there, which I thought was very good. So yeah, it can be done.
That's a step up, but the ultimate is obviously they get out the whiteboard, the telestrator, and they're using their pens and the light, and it's just like draw it up. It's like look at the angles of the bodies. Explain to the people that are watching it why it's what's working for them, how they're getting that dominance. And I tell you what, there will be an interest in scrums. Right, because now people are looking at what technique are they using? How are they doing it? What is the body position?
Yeah, is that guy closing his shoulder? Is that guy trying to get underneath? Yeah, and lift.
Exactly. And then you're not saying, oh, another boring scrum.
Yep. One of the things that the Crusaders have been criticised for in their opening couple of games is the number of penalties given away. I mean, we saw Tony Brown talking about it in the what was it? 4 penalties in that first half by the Crusaders. So initially, some real soft penalties in the first 5 minutes, and then they sorted things out pretty quickly. Which is, again, this just shows the class team here that can figure out
the difference. What's the difference between the first 10 minutes and the rest of the 70 minutes?
Well, they wake up and realise they've learned what the referee's going to be calling on.
No, hell no.
No. Okay.
Hell no. They didn't have to give away penalties. That's the difference. They had the ball. Second half in particular, they had the ball. When they have the ball, they're not giving away penalties. They're giving away penalties basically cynically, and that's what Tony Brown's going on about.
Yeah.
Because they're in defence, and rather than give the tries away, they'll give away penalties. And they'll we had
ones here where they will kick the ball and the forwards will all run forward without actually waiting for them to come on side. Things like that, which they don't normally do. They were definitely there was a whole bunch of stuff that they were perhaps a bit complacent in that first 5 or 10 minutes. When the score went against them, off they went.
We should get to that.
So they got their discipline sorted out, which was part of what got them going. Plus also Richard Mwanga really did start to fire, particularly in that second half where showing goes and just going through the gap. He made 2 or 3 clean breaks and was definitely part of the fact that the Crusaders outdid the Chiefs 10 clean breaks to 1 in their squad.
And how many of those 10s would have been Richie's or created by him?
Exactly. Yeah. He had a cracking one. And the reason I'm just filling now is because I'm going to look that up and tell you that Richard Mwanga only 3 clean breaks in this game, which is amazing. 3 is way more than anyone else. No one else made more than 1 clean break. He made 3.
But it's amazing. 3's amazing. But then again, how many did he actually create by the fact that he drew the player in? He did the steps so the player's dancing around, bought time, brings the defense in, and then there's a gap and he throws the ball to the guy in the gap. So I think it's even states the 3 that he did have himself.
Yeah, so it was he had an absolute cracker in that second half. I mean, things like the no look inside pass to
he did look.
Will Jordan. He did look. Oh, okay, fine.
I mean, I think, but one of the things that happened, and it's just like the Chiefs, the defensive line wasn't coming up and shutting the space down, so that was giving him that time to do the razzle dazzle. So look, and he took full advantage of it and just absolutely owned the show in that second half in particular. Yeah,
and basically the Chiefs, apart from about one section about 5 minutes when they scored the try in that second half, just didn't see the ball, which is it doesn't help they were playing into the wind, so they couldn't get so their clearing kicks couldn't clear that far, but that just meant that they needed to try and hold onto the ball and play out, but that would have meant playing out of their own 22.
What the Chiefs did
is very risky.
Well, what the Chiefs actually did there, and it just because they were defending all the time, is that they were so focused on the threats that the Crusaders had. Basically, they have them right across the park, right? I mean, when you look at, you got Jordan at the back, Whainukunuku on the one wing, and Sevu Reece on the other. So you're basically trying to shut down those. So they were so focused on that, and that's what I think they just forgot about Richie Mo'unga And you can't forget about Richie Mo'unga. I mean, you give him any space and time, and he'll do what he did today. And I think that's effectively what gave the Crusaders most of their front foot ball.
Yeah, and you're quite right. There were other times where you'd see the ball would go to somebody, particularly on the blind side. I remember watching this, and the three Chiefs defenders just stand, and they don't close up. There's no line. There was no line speed by it. Now, whether that was just tiredness in that second half, and just the fact that we're getting hammered here, it's hard to keep that work rate up. Players though that I think did obviously. You got I think Vi is really showing that he is born for this kind of level of rugby. And 18 tackles by him, 3 missed tonight, only beaten by Sam Cane with 19 tackles. But we saw, I think, more of Vi in attack than we did Sam Cane as well. So I think Vi had a cracking game for the Chiefs.
We do go and we go on and we do acknowledge the fact that Sam Cane is defensively very strong, etc. You know, the number of tackles he makes, I think. But unfortunately, really, you know, you have to do your tackles and you have to be there to attack as well. Otherwise, basically, in attack, you're down in person. If you know what I mean. It's great that he's tackling, but at the end of the day, he makes all his tackles, or he makes lots of tackles. They've got that much ball; they're going to find holes somewhere else. Anyway. And I think, you know, this is like it's sort of like on the back of what Steve's saying there and what we spoke about earlier. When you've got chances, you need to have everybody available to try and convert a chance, not just there defensively.
Yeah, and look, Vi 9 carries was the most number of carries of any of the Chiefs, as well as being second highest tackler. So, look, I say, really impressed by him during this game. Nana Satoro, he took his try really well in the second half, but I mean, the game was well and
truly gone. I think, I mean, it's an interesting one because Steve mentioned, hey, look, was there a game on tonight? Was there any good players, sort of thing? But and it's just like, you know, I mean, you look at the Crusaders forward pack, but hard to single anyone out, isn't it? It's just like everybody just plays that whole pack just goes so well. It's just really nobody stands out really to mind because they all just basically like a machine.
Yeah, I mean, as a unit, it was fantastic. Let's be honest. Look, they demolished the scrum. They had a really 16 out of 17 lineouts they won, so the lineout was working well. Okay, the maul wasn't making as much damage as it would do normally, but you got to say that with 10 turnovers only conceded, it meant they were putting their work rate in at ruck time as well. Winning 94% of their rucks, not quite as good as the Chiefs, but they had a lot more of them. They all of them, none of them stuck their head above the others, but as a group, they're all very high. In the backs, I mean, well, obviously, Fianuku's diving try. We can talk about whether his foot was grazing the grass or not, but the athleticism to put himself in that position, I thought was very good. And also, I thought Dave McKenzie's tackle line was pretty impressive.
I was just going to say that. I think, I mean, the fact that when the ball went to Whainukunu, there was a lot of daylight between McKenzie and him, and it's just like it's an easy stroll into the corner. So the fact that he was able to get there and put that pressure on him to make him make a spectacular try was actually a really good effort. And you really have to say, you know, you have to give, the Chiefs should be buying Damien McKenzie a beer tonight because he was the standout player for the Chiefs. You know, the only one really. For me, I mean, Vi, I know you mentioned as well, but really, he really left it out there on the field, did McKenzie.
Yep. David Havili out of position. I don't think I think he did absolutely fine. And I say that guy we've already talked about, I guess, at the top of the show from that point of view.
I think going forward they'll keep playing him at 12, and then Goodhue can play 13, or have those the two as the centre pairing anyway.
Yeah, and Goodhue, someone who we talk about, who known for his offloads and stuff, didn't throw an offload all game, and was pretty quiet, and has been for a few games for a while now, I feel.
He had, absolutely watching the game, I sort of think he's been a bit quiet, but then, if you've got everybody else around you doing everything that they need to, why wouldn't you just feed them? Yeah. I mean, this is like you take if there were a couple of times he did run and there was a slight gap and he took the line on and he and went for a run, but yeah, I think it's more a case of the fact is if everybody's humming, just give the ball to the guys that are in, creating and scoring tries and everything.
One of the things that did stand out, I mean, Reese again just seemed to hang out on his wing. Again, compare that to how Karevi was not Karevi. I've gone blank. Corabetti was going and finding work. Yes, last night for the Rebels. None of the wingers, particularly Stevenson, Nana Satoro, Fanuku, Reese, none of them seem to really go and find work. Which was, I guess, I don't know if that's just if that's a style or if that's a tactic to try and to say, right, we always want to have you guys out wide. Don't go and don't leave the sideline. But I think they could have got. Yeah, I think they could have got more involved.
I'd agree with you there. I think Whainuku went a couple of times looking for a bit of work, but it wasn't totally. But then again, I think the game was so for the Crusaders, it was sort of become touch rugby for them to just try and throw the ball around and score tries. That it's like, let's leave you guys out on the wing so we can create that space and give you the ball and you can try and go and finish.
Hey, to be fair to Whainuku, 12 runs is a lot. So he did get himself involved. Or did get involved. Yep. Now, part of that's going to be kick returns.
The ball coming out to him.
And also the ball coming out to him. Silver Reese 5 runs for 8 meters. Yeah, I think I'd want to see a bit more of someone like him. Really, yep. if you
you can't be too hard on those guys though, right? Because as Jordan says, I mean, like, oh my God, the chief hooker is like last week, this week, the guy can't hit the broad side of a barn. Oh, it's just a shocker.
But didn't he stabilise the scrum a little bit?
No,
you don't think
so? No. Oh, look, to be fair, I actually think, I mean, the props that you gave to VAR in the field, around the game itself, general play, yes, but one of the problems that the Chiefs have actually got is the power in the scrum from the second row.
Yep, true. It does make a big difference. We've also got the Super Rugby AU game coming up, so we'll wrap things up. But Stephen Harris, Fosu Douglas comes in late and has an outstanding game, including the try, which again, show go, a bit of stepping and over he goes. I mean, that's not what your ball bus, your kind of power running 8s are supposed to do. But hey, off he goes and does it. Sayoni Havili, he thought was a standout. As we say, I think as both we've said, look, he's amongst the unit that's doing a lot of good things. It was hard to really pick him out.
I'll be honest, I struggled to pick someone up. I mean, I really did. It's just like everybody's just like, he's amazing. He's amazing. He's amazing. It's just like, yeah.
So folks, do join us at 8 p.m. on Sunday evening for the Super Rugby Review Show. We'll go through all of the 4 games. This has been a bit of a kind of just a reaction to some of the stuff that happened there. As Stephen said, look, there's been a game. Let's talk about the players, and we will try and stick to that in the review show. In these reaction shows, we'll obviously cover off on some of that stuff. But we will on Sunday evening not brush over, but quickly move on from any refereeing issues. Thank you very much, Arsenal, for joining me. Thank you all in the live chat for joining us. I'll be back here at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning with the morning sports briefing, and let's say 8 p.m. tomorrow evening for the Super Rugby Review Show.